of games.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending where you are in the world. Welcome to Blue Sunday, brought to you by In the Blue Corner on the Jumper Punch channel. My name is Joseph Luzza, and may I introduce Mr. Vincent Loccisano, or Vincenzo. How are you today, Vince?
Good evening, Joe, and great to see you, mate. And unfortunately, just got back a short time ago from the MCG after watching our Blue Boys go down to Collingwood this afternoon in what I can only describe as a pretty insipid performance. But we'll certainly go over all of the details of the game and pull it apart. But I'll be honest with you, mate. I found that to be a listless performance. I don't think we ever at any stage looked like even mounting a comeback to challenge them, and the game just petered out. Collingwood just put the cue in the rack after half time and said, come on,
and that was it.
Show us what you got. And we had nothing to show, really. And
right.
They just coasted to a 28-point win, which I thought was flattering for Carlton.
I thought so too, but anyway. Now, Vince,
yep,
our spies have been out again.
Oh, yes.
Please.
What's happened now?
Please answer. This is unacceptable. However, we were going to give you a 2-match suspension, but you redeemed yourself.
Yes, today I redeemed myself. Well, I'll be honest. I organised some tickets to the Dream Time at the G game last night for Tanya, who, as everyone knows, is an Essendon supporter. And she thoroughly enjoyed herself, and Essendon won by a point. Couldn't have been a more thrilling finish. So, yes, the deal is when we go to Essendon matches, I've got to don the Essendon cap. And when we go to Carlton matches, she dons all the Carlton gear. So, I guess that's what keeps the relationship together.
I've got to tell you, the executive producer, Rocco, is not a happy man.
Yeah, I know.
He wouldn't be happy. He and I had a discussion earlier today. We would not repeat not. But in some good news, though, Vince, I found my twin brother yesterday.
Oh, really? Oh, there you go.
I was shopping, and there he was in a Bangkok shopping mall.
Oh, I tell you what. Your twin brother looks very, very similar to you because you're the one on the left there with the colourful shirt.
Yeah, that's right. That's why he had his arms out for me. He said, "Where have you been?"
Exactly.
So, yeah, I'm very happy. Anyway, enough of the frivolities. Let's get to business. There's been some games. First game, Vince. Oh, sorry. First game we had on Friday evening. Go for it.
We did indeed. Friday evening was the big game, in fact, between Port Adelaide and Melbourne. And I watched this game. I thought it was a fantastic contest from start to finish. It was very hard to know who was going to end up in front at the end. And look, all credit to Port Adelaide. They probably deserved to win that match. They were relentless all night. And they got over the line, 11-14-80 to Melbourne, 11-10-76. And that win really entrenches Port Adelaide in the top four. They really are a flag contender.
Yeah. Okay, moving to Saturday with a controversial game where Sydney got over North.
Yes, very stiff North Melbourne, but I guess the rules are the rules with the interchange allowance, I guess, being exceeded, and they lost the free kick and a 15-metre penalty, cost them the match. But heartbreak for everyone at North after Alistair Clarkson, of course, took leave of absence during the week and Brett Ratton took over. Almost got him over the line, but 14-6-90 defeated by the Sydney Swans in the end, 14-9-93. Sydney would be breathing a massive sigh of relief after that one.
Well, they what?
And we play them next week, don't forget, in Sydney on Friday night.
We'll get to that in a minute. The next game, bit one-sided.
Yes, the next game was a comprehensive win. Probably could have even been by more, but by the Western Bulldogs, who took the name of Maribyrnong this weekend. 11-19, 85 to Adelaide, 5-10-40, decimated by injury, Adelaide. So I'm sure they'll come back from that loss.
Next game was?
Next game, another big win for Fremantle Dockers. They played last year's grand finalists week after week. So they played Sydney last week and knocked them over on their home patch. This time they went on their own home patch and knocked over Geelong, the premiers. So a really decent comeback in form here by the Fremantle Dockers. Don't write them off for a spot in the finals. 16-10, 106 to 11-11, 77 from Geelong, who have got some major question marks there.
They have. Next game,
Brisbane eventually pulling away. This game was quite tight for most of the night, but in the last quarter, Brisbane really pulled away, kicking something like 6-1 in the last quarter and ended up winning 16-11, 107 to the Gold Coast Suns, 9-10, 64.
Next game.
The next one was the one I was at last night, and what a fantastic experience it was. I've got to tell you, it really is very well put together, this Dreamtime at the G concept, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. 10-11, 71, the Bombers. They looked all at sea. I think Richmond kicked the first goal of the last quarter to go to a 3-goal lead in a low-scoring match, and everyone thought, they're probably going to win now. But Essendon never gave up. And a little bit like Collingwood in that game in round 23 last year when they beat us by a point, they came back and won. 10-11, 71 to Richmond, 10-10, 70. And you've got to now ask questions about whether the Tigers can make the finals. Yeah, I would have thought that they're just about finished.
The West Coast are in a world of pain, but what happened today?
Yeah. And this just goes to show you why that 100-point win that we had against West Coast some 3 or 4 weeks ago now was almost inconsequential and insignificant. I mean, if Hawthorn on the bottom of the ladder can win like this, 22 goals, 10, 142 to West Coast, 4-2, 26, and I think they only kicked 2 behinds in the second half. You know, that just goes to show you that West Coast are, as you said, in a world of pain, and it's going to be a long, long, long rebuild before they come back to anywhere near finals contenders.
Okay, and then
massive win by Hawthorn.
Last game before we get on to our game.
Game before our game. Well, this is a gutsy win by St Kilda over there in Sydney against GWS, who have been gallant in defeat in a number of matches this year by very small margins, but they just don't do enough to get over the line, do they? 12-8-80, defeated by St Kilda, 13-14-92 by 2 goals.
And that gives us. I'll put up the ladder for you though, and we'll go through the thing. So here's the top 8, Vince.
Yep. Well, the top 8, you see Collingwood still a game ahead, 9 wins from 10 matches, only the 1 loss against the Brisbane Lions just before Easter. 131.3%. They're just coasting beautifully at the moment, Collingwood. They really deserve to be flag favourites at the moment. Brisbane, again, looking very comfortable up there in the top 4 with Port Adelaide on 8 wins each. And then, of course, Melbourne, having had that narrow loss, slipped back 1 to 4th position now, together with St Kilda and the Western Bulldogs. They're all on 7 wins after 10 matches. Then there's a bit of a gap, if you notice. No one is on 6 wins. It's down to 5 wins. Geelong on 5 wins and 20 points. And Adelaide on 5 wins, 20 points. And outside the 8, we also have Essendon on 5 wins and 20 points. And Fremantle now on 5 wins with 20 points. So 4 teams, 2 in the 8, 2 outside the 8, all on 5 wins out of 10. So they've won 5, lost 5. Carlton then is half a game further behind. We've slipped back to 11th position on the ladder. Not looking good for finals, but you wouldn't, I guess, mathematically rule us out. But, geez, the way we've been playing lately, Joe, my goodness. What have we lost now? 5 out of our last 6 games?
Exactly.
It's not going in the right direction, is it? So we've
No.
got 4.5 wins out of 10 on 18 points. And then we slip back to Sydney Swans and Gold Coast on 4 out of 10. They're looking precariously placed. Another loss, another sort of unexpected loss from either of those sides, and you'd say they're pretty much done. Richmond now on 3.5 out of 10. I think they're pretty much gone. And I think the last 4 can put the queue in the rack. GWS, 3 wins on 12 points. Hawthorn and North Melbourne on 2 wins. And the hapless West Coast Eagles bringing up the bottom of the table on 1 win after 10 rounds.
And that's what makes next week's games all that more important, isn't it?
Indeed.
Anyway, let's get on with the show.
Yep.
Vince, we've been lucky enough tonight to be joined by the one, the only Rocco Stignetti. G'day, Rocco. How are you tonight?
How are you guys? How's things?
It's good to see you, Rock.
I thought
So,
I'd come on and share the misery.
You want to have this? We're going to call this the pain game, I think, this show.
Therapy.
Is that what it is?
The pain game. So, Rocco, you were at the game, obviously, today?
Definitely was at the game. I never miss a game. I'm even going next week. That's how much of a sicko I am.
I was at the game too, by the way. Can I just, before we keep going, boys, I'd just like to, before I forget, give a big shout out to Lisa Palomara, who came up to me and said hello, and big fan of the show and a big fan of the Jumper Punch, and she's a subscriber, and just wanted to give her a big shout out to tonight on Blue Sunday. So nice to see you today, Lisa. Keep watching.
Okay. And let me introduce the one, the only, the 1979 Premiership backman forward utility. Wouldn't we love to have him out there? Mr. Peter Brown. Good evening, Peter. How are you tonight?
Good evening, Joe. Good evening, Vince. Good evening, Rocco. Good evening, viewers.
How are you,
Good evening, Brownie.
How are you, boys?
Can't wait to hear you fire up tonight, Brownie. I tell you what, that Carlton Collingwood match is, you said last week, if they don't fire up for this game and know the significance of what this clash means, you'll get stuck into him. And I'll tell you what, I didn't see much passion from our boys today, so I'll be very interested to hear what you got to say tonight.
Yeah, very disappointed with the result.
Let's get to the result. Vince, if you'd like to go through it for us, please.
Yes, indeed, Jay. Well, there you see the final score, of course, with Collingwood scoring 13 goals, 85 from 20 scoring shots, defeating Carlton 7 goals, 57, 22 scoring shots, very inaccurate again. And I thought a flattering margin for Carlton of 28 points. I thought Collingwood always had control all day long.
Even if we got some of those easy shots, I think we would have been we would have stolen that match. If I was Collingwood and Carlton won, I would have called the police.
Well, honestly, the first half really told the tale. Collingwood 5-2 to 1-2 at quarter time, leading by 4 goals exactly. And then they kicked another 5 goals, 3 to 3 goals, 4 in the second quarter to go in 35-point leaders at halftime, 65 to 30. And then in the second half, I think they scored a goal each in the third quarter and 2 goals each in the last quarter. We scored a few more behinds to creep that margin back from 35 back to 28, but essentially the same amount of goals were scored. We just had a lot more rushed behinds go through, and they just held us at bay and coasted to the line, really, without having to extend themselves.
We can't even this same amount of points. People are going to say, "Oh, we had the same." I mean, where we were having our shots from,
exactly. Ridiculous.
They were in the pockets, like seriously. You don't even count how many shots we were having,
No.
And then there was a few rush behinds there. But
yeah,
whenever we have a shot, rarely do we kick 30 in front of goal. It's always 45 on the boundary or 60 on the. It's they're always in a ridiculous place, you know. So
anyway, so I know we're all pretty old fashioned, but let's put up a few stats. Vince, you can talk through them. First one is disposals. Carlton is on the left, as it was our home game. Yep. And Collingwood on the right. You can see we had 20 more total disposals. They had more kicks. We had more handballs. Interesting fact, we had the same amount of inside 50s, and I found this amazing that our efficiency was 77% compared to Collingwood 74%. But I guess they're the stats.
Again, these stats mean nothing because we always, in the last 5 or 6 weeks, we're either leading a lot of the main stats or we're very similar and we still get beaten. All these stats mean nothing.
Exactly, Rock.
We're beating 38-30 and we do nothing with them. We win the clearance, we win the handball out, that first handball, and then we lose it.
And we turn it over.
Clearances, they win it. It's just they mean nothing. Stoppage clearance is 30-18. We always win the stoppage clearance. We never do anything with it.
Probably two statistics which are pretty interesting here. One is that the centre clearances. Now, the centre clearances cost us 3 or 4 goals in the first quarter or the first quarter and a half, of which virtually set the game up for them. And that was the one that we lost it at. And the other one that was interesting for me was that the stoppages from clearances, we actually won them, but Collingwood actually were a lot cleaner with their stoppages than what we were. We were fiddling with it, we was fumbling with it, and we weren't actually hurting them on the scoreboard.
Yeah, I'm going to take the stats off because, as Rocco says, I mean, I know some of the younger viewers love the stats, but So Peter, as an ex-player, give us a summation. What we all know there's a problem, okay? What is the problem?
Well, I thought right from the start, and I said it prior to us coming on air tonight, that I thought that they lost it in the selection. Collingwood named Darcy Cameron earlier in the week, and yet we didn't counter that straight away. I would have had DeConning in the twos running around. He picked up a number of possessions and things like that. So I would have had him. If Cameron hadn't played, I would have still had DeConning as even our sub. But have him up there just in case. And as it was, we actually got smashed in the middle when Cameron went in there. Darcy Cameron went in there, and Pitnet held his own against Big Mason. But when Cameron, I thought, went in there, I thought he was the X factor, and I thought that's where they got their ascendancy, and that was the margin of which was basically through the whole game. Our forward thrusts, and you brought up the statistics before, Vince, about the fact that inside 50s were virtually the same number each time. But there's inside 50s and there's inside 50s. Collingwood were able to lower their eyes and actually hit a target inside. All we were doing is that we were becoming too predictable going into the forward line. And as a result of that, Darcy Moore helped himself to 11 intercept marks through the whole game, which made our forwards look stupid. And at one stage there, I thought that we actually didn't have a forward line there actually doing some defensive work because they were running out of the back too easily for mine. So
I heard. Sorry,
I'd like to know one stat. What is the defensive tackles? Because seriously, like you said, they were running that ball out of defence so easily. There was no pressure on them. Like they were just getting the ball and just kicking it back out, handballing their way out of there. There was no pressure in the back line. Small forwards aren't doing their job. They're definitely not doing their job.
Where are they? They kick it today. I noticed they kick it long. Everyone can see the game plan, and there's 3 on Harry or 3 on Charlie. Where's Motlop? Where's Owies? Where are these people?
It looks like Owies game plan. Sorry, it looks like Collingwood knew our game plan better than what we knew our game plan.
Yeah, exactly.
They were there every time, and we weren't. Yep. It's like they stole our game plan and absolutely followed it to a T. And we weren't there. We forgot to read the game plan. You'll never see a small forward. I think it was Vinny Catoggio or might have been Mark, who one of these said that they're just too flat-footed. they're just too flat-footed. They're not running hard at the contest, you know. Like you look at Collingwood, they were doing it. Even during in the middle of the ground, whenever there was a contest, their smalls and mediums were running strong in the contest and breaking through. We just don't do it. We just don't run towards the contest. It's like we're flat-footed. And I think if you're not running towards the contest, I mean, you've got no chance.
I thought that in the first quarter and a half, I thought Nick Dacos was quite prominent in the game.
Yep.
And one of the things that one of the commentators, because I wasn't at the game, I was watching it here, but one of the comments that the commentator made was that Nick Dacos didn't give anybody on the ground any respect whatsoever. What he was doing is he was allowing, say, Curnow to run to the contest, but Nick was actually running on to where that next contest was going to actually be. And what happened then was that he was able to be a part of their thrust forward, whereas our guys, we're all running to one place. We're running to the contest rather than considering what's going to happen after that. And Collingwood's got that much confidence in them actually winning the contest that they are capable and able to run forward and be another target further up the ground. And I thought in our second half, particularly today, I thought at least we shut that down a little bit more. But in the first quarter and a half, no, they were able to control that. And I wouldn't say that any one side controlled the middle of the ground completely today. I would have thought that our contests in the second half were better, but still we didn't hurt them on the scoreboard. It's all very well to have these contests. It's all very well to have these stoppages, but the point's made that if you're going to win those, you need to hurt them and put scoreboard pressure on, and that's what wasn't happening.
Well, that happened in the third quarter. We had a bit of a purple patch there where we were sort of getting on top. I wouldn't say dominating, getting on top. Point. Collingwood get it up their goal. It just must be so disheartening as a player.
I think so. And not even just like point. We were getting the ball and then going into the forward 50, and then it was just getting repelled straight away, you know. That forward 50 entry was it just wasn't good, you know. I'll ask you a question, Brad. You say that, you know, like we're winning that middle and Collingwood spread. I noticed how they spread. They knew where to go, right? They knew we don't do it. We got no confidence in our play. We've got no confidence in the game plan. We've got no confidence in our players, because if you did have confidence in your players, you would go to that next spot where the ball was going to be, right? And we don't tend to do it. Is that because the game, as far as what we can see on the outside, is that because the game plan isn't working, or is it because they're not doing the game plan as they're being asked, or they're not confident in doing that game plan? What is the issue here?
Well, I think, firstly, I would say that I've got a question mark over the game plan. That's the first thing. You know, it's evident to me that any side through the competition, to beat Carlton, all you've got to do is shut the two forwards down. There's no other avenue to goal. We're too predictable going into the 50. In fact, we're in a situation where half the time we're too slow in moving the ball into the forward 50.
Correct.
And if you recall last week, we kicked 2 or 3 goals by purely and simply hitting up and actually being another target. And that's something that we don't do good enough into our forward line. We don't actually spread. So in other words, our forwards don't spread out enough so that it allows the big fellas to. And did you see that I think it was one of the last kicks going into forward? Cox was actually in the goal square, and Pendlebury grabbed the ball and kicked it into the danger spot. And all of our backs had their backs to the ball, weren't even looking at the ball coming in, which means that they couldn't provide a contest. And what's happening is our backs are turning around, looking at one another, going, well, hang on, why aren't we actually having someone coming in to that danger spot and actually being in an intercept capacity so that you can actually shut that avenue down? Now, that's something that we don't do. And there was footage of that today again where we had maybe 3 forwards flying with one another again, and I thought we had enough smarts to start thinking about that. But actually, one of the things that I've been concerned about is that whilst you are supposed to have a game plan, you still got to be able to think for yourself as a footballer.
Exactly.
And by thinking for yourself, you're either going to be a defensive player or an attacking player. That's the only 2 things you've got to do on the ground. You either be a defensive player or you are an attacking player. And if you're going to be a defensive player and that's the thing that you have to do to shut your opponent down, then go and get a kick and be an attacking player, well, that's something you've got to work on. But our blokes, and we've seen this before, as soon as we even look like moving forward, we can be world beaters. They run their legs off everybody else. But as soon as they've got to run back in defence, or as soon as they've got to actually shut a defensive or a forward thrust down, we can't do it. And again, we found our backs behind the forwards when the ball was coming in. Now, there were several times where, and McGovern was one of them, he was guilty of it, and I believe Wiedering was as well, where they find themselves sucked up the ground where the contest comes through, and they're in no man's land. And then they sort of turn around and much as to say, oh, well, it's not my problem. I didn't do anything like that. There was one entry of which, and I'm not sure who took the mark now, but it was a pass that came in. It was a low pass, and I thought our backs could have made a contest of it, and they didn't. They just stood there and watched it come in.
I know the contest.
Yeah, and then they just looked at each other.
Yep. Yep. Who's supposed to have the responsibility? Well, hang on, guys.
None of them are taking their responsibility. The other bit of play that kind of like explains Carlton is the one where Wiedering takes the mark in that back pocket there, or in the back half there, and he stops. Now I was right behind him, and McGovern was to the left of him, right, free. This is a perfect time to hit him and go, right. So he doesn't even turn his head, right? He waits 3 or 4 seconds, and he kicks it, and it gets turned over, and Collingwood kick the goal. The mistake was he didn't turn his head. He doesn't go for the kick anymore. I don't know what's happened for him. He's scared to go for that kick, right? And then when he does try to do a kick down the line, he misses the target by a metre. So it was like all these things were done wrong within like 10 seconds. And that just shows Carlton, they're not taking their chance. They're playing very predictable, and then they're not executing whatever they're playing anyway. So I don't know. Do you reckon like Voss that's his game plan? Go to a contest, try to win it, and then go forward again?
If it is his game plan, it's not working.
Well, the other thing is that, and we discussed this last week, me and Vince, when quite often we have a bit of a chat on the phone during the week. But one of the things that we discussed was that Voss as a player was prepared to take it on, right? And I just think that Vossi's actually coaching safely. Now, whether he's under enormous pressure from above or whatever, but one of the things that concerns me about administrations and football coaches and that situation is that I believe the administrators put their noses into things that they shouldn't be putting them into. And I believe that we're actually not taking the game on. And we want to see Vossi coaching the way he played. It was all hell's, all in, boots and all. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, the way we're going is too safe. We're not actually creating anything. We're not actually creating any doubts in the mind of other coaches. What we're doing is that we're actually going in with a predictable game plan, as we were talking about before, and we're not changing it up. Lewis Young was a forward at the Doggies. Why not drag him from the back line, put him down into forward line, put Charlie back in the back line if you wanted to? Harry's useless. You wouldn't put him up there anyway. But if you put Curnow behind the ball or something like that, just change it up a little bit. Make some unpredictable moves. Sheedy was an absolute master of it in the 80s. He would throw, her to full forward or to full back or on the wing or wherever, just to throw things out a little bit. As it is now, we seem to go in with this, this one-dimensional. It's a one-trick pony to me, and it's one-dimensional. And if it doesn't work, then what the hell do we do then? I don't know.
Peter, can I just come back to a point that you've been making, I think, since round one, and I'll put it up on the ball on the screen. We lack leadership. Cripps down. Wiedering lost confidence. What do you say? What do we do?
That's a very good question. I said last week we should manage Cripps, and by that I mean drop him, or put him somewhere else on the ground. I don't know where you're going to hide him, to be honest with you. He's got no defensive game to his repertoire at all. It was proven today. De Goey towelled him up in the middle on occasions, purely and simply, particularly. De Goey, I saw him have one contest, might have been on the half-back line or in the middle. He was beaten for the ball, but then he was able to regain, then go on, and then he ran down the field, and Cripps was 30 metres behind him. Wasn't even in the contest, didn't even bother about chasing him down in there. And that's not the first time I've seen that. And that's really disappointing from a captain's point of view. I just think that there's got to be bigger leadership. And our backline just doesn't have any leadership at all.
Zero.
None whatsoever.
No.
And it really is exposed now. We can keep on making excuses for it, but at the end of the day, we don't have it. And that's the reality of it. Now, I caught a couple of quarters of the twos game today. Paddy Dowd got another 41 in the twos. Now, I don't know what he's done. I don't know whether, he's told someone that something he shouldn't have or maybe, I don't know, punched the bloody coach in the mouth. But at the end of the day, that's got to be a weight of numbers, surely to goodness. And if you are going to hang on to him, put him in there, let him have a crack, because clearly, Cripps has got to get out of the middle. He's useless in there now. I think
he needs some help. He needs some help there,
but last year he had Hewitt helping him, right? Hewitt's down
the
on
other
forward.
move, like they make Hewitt the sub. I don't understand that. I don't understand like Hewitt as the sub. And then at times they had Kennedy on Myercheck in the back line.
Yeah, well, that was never going to work.
Well, I don't get that. He does that a lot, and then like he's not rewarding. Like I remember last year when they appointed Voss, they said the only time they're going to bring in players is when they get a good block of form in the reserves, and then he's gone away from that. But first of all, he's not doing that because he's bringing in players when they haven't had a good block of form, and then the ones who have had a good block of form, like Dow. I'm not saying Dow's the answer. But
at least have a shot.
But he deserves an opportunity, Rocco. He deserves an opportunity. Well, there's no selection integrity. There's no selection integrity at all with this club. It's terrible.
One of the things that's really interesting is that, and we mentioned this last week when we put it up. We've got all of these players that are on big money, huge money, right? And after that, it just drops off the cliff. Instead of maybe the club, if the club is really going to get fair income about this, maybe the club's got to go take a couple of step backs to come forward. And by that I mean, instead of paying them $900,000 a year, how about paying them $500 plus some bloody incentives and get them to bloody well perform and get some what we call match committee pressure on players, because you're only as good as your last game. Let's not live on reputations here. Let's live on the fact that we've got to have performances week in, week out. And these players are comfortable. They're comfortable.
100%. Would you drop Wiedering?
Yes.
Man, He's terrible. Look, and I like him, but he's been so bad that, and I don't know if it's because of the money or whatever it is, but he can't be doing what he's doing. And it's time to drop these big name players. I mean, you're right. To me, they just seem comfortable. They're just comfortable.
I said it last week, Rocco. I said that they're entitled. And we're in the situation here where we've got too many players that are entitled, and as a result of that, they don't have to perform. They don't,
And Peter, this one here, this comment here, do what Collingwood did 2 years ago, make the big calls, and they're absolutely right. They traded what was the bloody ruckman, Grundy?
Yeah,
Grundy. And they're paying him like $1 million a year, and they thought, nah. Bugger that. They sent him off. They pay half his money, whatever. They don't care. And look at them. They're better off for it. We will never do that. We as a club would never do that. And we were talking about this with Mars last week, and because we've talked about this privately. And apart from maybe 2 players, every player there should be up for trade if we can get a deal for them. I don't care. No
one is safe. No one should be safe.
There should be no one safe. Maybe Curnow and Walsh, because maybe them two. But apart from that, everybody else, you not only are you safe at the club, you shouldn't be safe week in and week out. Like it's ridiculous, man. If you're playing in the reserves, right, and you're doing that stuff like Dow is doing, and then you're not getting a game, what does that do for the whole club, Peter? What does that do for
your own confidence?
I reckon it destroys the club because you're
what message is it sending?
You're not getting rewarded. That's a joke.
If you're playing around in the twos and you're getting constant possessions and you're not getting a crack at it, then move. Go to another club, right?
100%. And I don't blame them.
Look, I've said this for ages, and everyone held me down, even when Cruiser was running around, and even when Murphy was running around. I would have traded him. Gibbs, for Christ's sake. All he wanted to do was look at himself on the screen. But at the end of the day, we're in a situation here where we've got to win games of football. And if we're not winning games of football by getting a competitive side on the park, then we might as well give away playing football, to be honest with you.
100%.
It's just frightening to think that if we're going to continue to accept mediocre, and it's almost like we're rewarding bad behaviour,
we are.
As a club. If we're going to get fair income about it, then as you said, Rocco, put some bloody players up that aren't performing and trade them and get some other people in that you can work with.
Could we have done any worse today if we had Dow? I don't know. I don't even know who the backmen are in the reserve. But if we would put Kemp in, would we have done any worse today? I don't think so.
Well,
I think Cowan played better than
Cowan played in the reserves today.
Cowan, I didn't mind Boyd coming in, but anyway, anyway.
I got the impression today. Sorry, go on.
Oh, go on.
No, you finish your point.
No, all right, just quickly. I was just going to make the point of this. With our team selection, and I'll just clarify this one other way. With the team selection that we don't have enough flexibility in our side to be able to take someone like a Kemp, bring him in, and then actually moving back or moving forward, right? And this is where a lot of sides catch us out because we don't have the ability to be able to put these players in different positions in the side or on the ground to be able to change things up. So that's the thing that I reckon has got to be changed.
Too predictable.
And you were like, I know you played a long time ago, Brownie, but you had that kind of thing where you could play on a few positions on the ground, correct?
Well, he did it in the grand final.
Yeah.
He did it in the 1979 grand final, Rocco.
Well, that was the perfect one. That was a perfect one when Jezza went down. Exactly right. But, so we haven't got that,
They had versatility back then.
We used to have, but we haven't got it anymore. I don't think any player can go. I don't think there's one player that we can move. They tried it with McGovern today, but that was just a bit of, I think at the end that was a bit of desperation. It wasn't a really good move. It was just some desperate. And the only other one they do is like sauce into the ruck. They haven't got it, you know.
No.
But I've heard Voss and a few other coaches say, "Oh, that's because the young people now we've got to make them believe that they can do it. We don't want to put them down." I mean, if something doesn't work, change it, fix it. Don't just let it stay there and make it get worse.
It's like a tail wagging the dog these days, is it? That's what it seems like.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Hey,
and Rocco, you know another thing, if there is a game plan, right, and the players aren't doing it or they're rebelling against it, well, we've got a real issue and we better start fixing that up. And the players should not be determining what they should be doing. They should be going out there and they should do what they're being told to do. And that's it.
When it's all said and done, Rocco, they've got to start thinking for themselves. I mean, stop being a robot.
They don't think for themselves anymore. They've absolutely lost it.
Sorry, Joe, you were going to say?
No, I was going to say, I don't know if Rocco and Vince are aware of this. Peter and I will be. Just before half-time, Michael Voss and Patrick Cripps had a bit of an argument on the boundary line. Did you guys see it?
I didn't see it. I heard about it. So what happened? You saw it.
So what's happened is
I didn't see it.
Okay, so obviously Patrick Cripps has come off for a rest. And, you know, Michael Voss was down on the boundary line. I think there's only a couple of minutes to go, wasn't there, Pete, in the second quarter? And you could see them both sort of waving arms and, you know, sort of
pointing in different directions.
Yeah, obviously we weren't there, so we don't know whether it was a discussion or an argument, right?
Yep.
However, my friends just sent me something. News.com.au. It's a matter of time as heated confrontation with big AFL club crumbling.
Well, to your point, Joe, in some of the commentary that was there, I don't know whether you saw it or not, Rocco and Vince, but obviously Pratt was there today, and apparently there was some big heavy hitters in the crowd, and I believe
that's because of the Peter McCallum Cup and all that sort of business, and the Richard Pratt Cup.
I would suspect that'd be the case as well. But having said that, you know, all of a sudden they're now suggesting that Sayers and these guys are going to come out and, you know, have a word to the media next week and all of this sort of thing. But I think this is starting to become too little too late, to be honest with you. I think there's just been too much silence, too much in, and I don't know. I'm only suggesting that I'm hearing this third hand, that there's too much infighting. There's not enough bloody. There doesn't seem to be enough cohesion through it, and as a result of that, I think it's filtering down to where it's not supposed to be filtering down to, and that is on the on-field performances.
Yep.
Well, that's the big problem now, and we saw it like with Matheson came out right or wrong, but you can just start seeing cracks in the whole organisation. Now Voss is arguing with his captain in front of the camera. I also heard that that Williams and Cook might have had something to say today too. There was a little bit of a stouse there. So all these cracks are starting to happen, and you know what? This is the apple crumble. If it's starting from the top and they're starting to bicker and fight, I don't see any hope for the actual, you know, like the team, the players. What hope have they got if they're starting to crack up the top? So I think there's going to be some shit going on in the next week or two now.
Well, it's funny because I don't know whether you noticed or not. Vince, you were at the game. Rocco, you were at the game. I don't know whether you saw it too, Joe, but they were in the warm-up. There was Kennedy who had the jacket on. Was on Cripps, right? And obviously they were doing some ball-up exercises in the middle or something like that. I turned to my wife and I said, if I was Kennedy, it'd only have to travel this far, but it could do some real damage in the ribs of Cripps. And mate, maybe that might stir him up because obviously, clearly, if he's pulling hair now and gets $1,000 fine, And he meant that, by the way, too. If you've seen the footage, that was absolutely disgraceful.
That was last week against Bailey Smith. He pulled his hair because he couldn't get to him.
And
he was struggling to reach him, Rocco, so he decided to pull his hair, and he ended up getting a $1,500 fine for it.
Oh, there you go.
Well, see, I made the comment to Vince last week when I was talking. If you've got to resort to pulling hair, that means you can't fight. So if you're gonna fight like a girl, then you're gonna do this sort of shit. So if you want to play like a girl, then that's obviously.
So Peter, take your mind back to who was your Alex Jesaulenko? Who else coached you? Parker?
Alex Jesaulenko.
Percy Jones.
Ian Stewart was there for 8 games, and we all know the history behind that. Actually, one of the lockers has got an indentation of him, I think, somewhere along the way. I'm pretty sure. Anyway, that's hearsay.
That's for another day.
Serge Silvani, obviously, for a few games.
Serge. Actually, a guy by the name of Keith McKenzie, they used to call him Capers. He was coaching the twos, and then Serge took over. Ian Thorogood was there. In my first year that I came to town was the last year of John Nichols. And let me tell you, that Mike Brady song about those cold, hard steel eyes of Nick is completely true. As a 16-year-old, mate, I got the wrath of those one night. And let me tell you, I never ever fucked up again. Sorry, guys.
So Peter, you're the captain of the 1979 team, and you come off for an interchange, and you have a go at the coach. What would the coach have done to you?
You wouldn't have got back on the ground.
It just shows today, apparently all these people are saying, it's really good to see the coach and the captain having a discussion about things on the sidelines.
Well, I can confess to this and it's in the record book, so everyone can look it up. We played St Kilda at Princes Park one day, and Peter McConville was playing in the twos and kicked 10 goals in the twos. I was selected at full forward, and before I went out, my opponent was Barry Breen. And before I went out, Jezza came up to me before the game and said to me, Mac has kicked 10 in the twos. If you don't do anything today, you're out. And I went out and I kicked 6, 9 and 2 out of bounds on the floor.
Did you get dropped?
It's in the record books.
No, did you get dropped to kick at the 9 points?
9 points.
Yeah, that's anyway.
Should have kicked 15 straight, Brownie.
Yeah. Should have kicked 15 straight. Secured your spot for 2 weeks.
Well,
here's me having to go Harry Mackay.
Can I just make a point about today's game that I noticed? I don't know what you guys thought, but I got the distinct impression that our players just do not trust each other. They don't play in a manner that says that they have confidence in each other. You talked about how they don't run forward in anticipation of winning the contest. That's because I don't think that they actually believe they're going to win the contest, and they don't play like they're going to win. They don't trust their mate to do the right thing and then move the ball forward. I just got the distinct impression that it's a bunch of players who are really in self-protection mode, and they are not playing as a cohesive unit, and they do not trust each other.
And that's why they get sucked in, Vince. If you notice in the contest, they all get sucked in because they're all trying to win the ball, where Collingwood, 1 or 2 go in there. And I'm telling you, I kept watching it. They just hold their nerve and they stay wide, they stay wide. And they've always got that release valve, where we just get sucked in. And that shows there's no confidence in player and game plan.
Well, I thought that in particularly more so in the centre bounces and the centre clearances, I thought that Collingwood's work in there was exceptional today. I thought that they were given the opportunity of having first use of the ball. Their midfield players and their rotation through their midfield players is probably one of the best in the competition. Purely and simply because they can, if one is not performing in there, they can automatically throw Pendlebury in there. And all know what happens with Pendlebury. As soon as he gets the ball, the waters seem to part, and he has that much time to get rid of the ball, either by hand or foot. He's just an exceptional player where that's concerned. but our rotations through the middle are stop-start. They're not cohesive, and they're not. And again, I think what they do is that they wait for instruction rather than be proactive in their approach to the game. The question I need to ask Rocco, and I don't know whether you saw it or not. I know there's a couple of questions actually. First question: they took Hollins off the ground as the sub, and they brought in Hewitt. They took Hollins off the week before too at halftime, and they brought the sub in. If he's not right, then he shouldn't be on the ground. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Hollins gets dropped next week because his performance today was substandard. But the other one I needed to ask you was, for mine anyway, the best player on the ground was Doherty by far for Carlton. He's obviously done a hammy, so it's quite possible he can't.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, he was gripping his hamstring in the last quarter. He stretched,
and he did go off. And got some.
Yeah, I was listening to the radio after that, Nate. Ash Hansen said, because I interviewed Ash Hansen, and he said, he'll be right. In other words, he'll miss 4 weeks.
Yeah. What would Ash Hansen know?
No, what they'll say, Joe, is that he'll be out for between 2 to 4 weeks, and then he'll come back the very same weekend.
Well, the bit about Hollins is, first of all, you're right. If he's not right, why are they playing him? And he's a young kid, and he should have probably been rested a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
I mean, don't kill the kid. He's had a good run. We can, but they said it was on the app there. It was a tactical move, right?
Yeah, but they do it to both.
Tactical move halfway through the game. Is that your tactical move? I think it was a move of desperation. Like he had no idea, and he knew he had Hewitt and actually when Hewitt came on, he did all right. He had Hewitt on the bench. You know, and you know, I thought he just thought, we've got to get Hewitt on somehow, and
the other one I need to have a question mark over the top of, and he was in my best players in the first half, was Akers. He obviously hurt his either his shoulder or his arm at one stage.
Yeah, he did it a couple of weeks ago.
And he had no influence in the game whatsoever in the second half of the game. And I thought, well, is he carrying as well now?
He could be. He could be too. Like, he's a bit weird. With like Akers and Doc and all that, they're all but far out. They make some mistakes, but even Doc makes some mistakes, man. He misses targets, kicks out on the full. I like to see a stat on individual players who kick the ball out on the full the most, and I reckon Doc would be right up there because he did it again today, man. He kicks the ball very wide and he goes on the full. So,
well, he had something like 25 kicks and 9 hand passes. He had a lot of the ball, so some of them are not going to go where they want. But I mean,
they're crucial.
I tended to agree with Brownie that he was one of our top 3 on the ground.
No, he was definitely one.
Even if he did make a few mistakes, but.
Look, but there's nothing wrong with making mistakes as long as you're having a go. I'd rather you make a mistake than half of them just sit there and all they do is run around with their hand up and they try and do these dinky 10-metre kicks and then turn it over and it goes back faster than a slingshot. They'll just stand there.
Can I ask you a question, Rocco? Sorry?
No, there was just a comment here. I saw the lowest tackle count at halftime since the infamous GWS game.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I was going to ask you, Rocco, what did you think of Adam Sard's game? I'm starting to get a little bit worried about Adam Sard. I just don't know whether we're playing him in the right position to make full use of him or whether he's getting a bit stale down the defence. I don't know.
Another one. Why don't we move him into the middle or move him on the wing?
Again, he's someone you can do something with, but they never seem to do anything with him that's creative.
No.
Probably the most creative player in the team.
They got him in the back line, and teams know that we'll try to use him. Yeah. So they put a defensive player on him, right? And he doesn't get
nullifies
used the way we should, man. He's a weapon, that bloke.
But they never use him as a weapon.
We don't use him properly.
The other sides now have worked out that if you take his left-hand side away from him, he's not going to give you any drive. So what I would do is, and I said this a couple of weeks ago, I'd play him up as a small forward and let him run onto it. Get him to run up the ground and then get him to run back. And
100%.
That's something that we're not doing. We don't have enough movement from our small forwards to even be a danger. And I said this a couple of weeks ago, guys, and that was pretty evident today. You made a comment before, Vince, about the fact that Collingwood, you thought they put the pool cue away in the rack after half time.
They gave me that impression. They gave me that impression.
Well, that just shows you the respect that they
were just sort of, holding us back. It was almost like they were pushing us in the chest to say,
That's
okay,
right.
you guys, don't come
That's
too
right.
close.
That's
But,
right.
it was almost like
respect.
they were saying, okay, show us what you got. We'll sit back now. We won't push anymore.
Yeah.
Show us what you've got. And we had nothing to show.
Yeah.
And they just kept us at bay for the rest of the game. It was almost a boring match the second half.
Oh,
Yeah,
it was
I
a whole
heard
boring match.
something about Sidebottom laughing at the end of the game, or like
yeah. Him and Darcy Moore.
audience.
Him and Darcy Moore were just chuckling on the ground, to be honest.
They were cute.
Yeah,
It was almost laughable.
Well, I said this weeks ago, guys, and I said it again last week. We've got no respect as a club. We've got absolutely none whatsoever. In fact, we're starting to become the laughing stock of the competition. And if we're not careful, we may end up in, probably in the bottom four, the way that things are going. The danger is that our ability to be able to overcome adversity is just not there.
Yeah.
No.
Well, Rocco,
Hey, boys.
you and I went to Adelaide back in April, and at that stage we were in the top four. I think we'd won 1-3 and drew 1 after the first 4 rounds, and we were thinking we're a big chance to play finals and play top 4 even if everything goes well. And after that performance, I think after the first 10 minutes against Adelaide, we have just been a very, very poor performing team that just looks nothing like a finals team. We had one good game against West Coast, but who hasn't played a good game against West Coast? Put that aside. That's just not even worth talking about. We have played some really poor football for 6 weeks.
If you look further back than that, seriously, apart from the honeymoon period of last year, the first 10 rounds, we've won 8 games in 23. And our percentage is around about the 95.
Yep.
In that 20, so that's a season of football, right?
Yep.
We've won 8 games. So when you look at it like that, I'm telling you, this is worse. I think people overrated what our side, and I think I did too. You know what I mean? Like
we all did.
We overrated how good this side is. It's not that good. It's not that good.
No.
Take away those top 8 players, maybe that are probably
take away Charlie
good.
Walsh. Yeah.
You take away them. Hey. I'm telling you, the rest are just ordinary players at best.
Well, are we the new St Kilda? Look, St Kilda won 1 flag in 150 years. We're turning into them. Well, don't tell me we're going to be the new St Kilda. I haven't got 150 years left.
We're not that bad yet. We're not that bad yet, Michael, but we're on the way.
I think one of the questions that we have to ask ourselves as a club, and I'll put us all in this, is that if you look at our side and if you analyse our side, and if you were to say our top 25 players, how many of the top 10 players would be the elite in the competition? Then how many after that would get a game with another side in the competition? And
Good
then
question.
How many of our reserves, I'll call them reserves, I won't call them reserve players, but reserves have got the ability to come on and play at the top level. So the question we need to ask ourselves when we're sitting down looking at our list management is this, right? If our top 10 players are elite players within the competition, are we paying them too much money? And if we are paying them too much money, then we have to make adjustments where that's concerned. But the next 10 to 12 players, they're the ones that are going to actually win you premierships, not the top end, because what happens is week in and week out, they're going to get all the scrutiny. It's the ones that are the bottom half of your 25 or your 20 players that are on the ground. They're the ones that win you games of football, not the stars, right? It's the workers. So if we haven't got those players that are capable of making another side, then we've got them in the side under false pretenses.
Yeah.
Well, the bottom 10 players, I'm telling you, the apart from our top, I don't think most of them would even get a game in any of the top 8 sides.
But you want to know an interesting fact, gents? Carlton has 7 of the top 100 highest paid players in the competition. Did you know that?
Oh,
7 of the top 100 players across the entire AFL competition play for Carlton. And I'm talking about, Cripps and, McGovern
Walsh,
and Jack Martin and all of these guys, Curnow, Mackay, etc. 7 of the top 100. Now, they are not playing to that standard.
There you go. This is what
people and all that have got something to answer for here.
And that's
obviously mismanagement.
It is mismanagement. That is exactly
Stephen Silvani and Brad Lloyd.
It's not Silvani.
It's not Silvani, Joe. Nick Austin's in charge of the list management.
Yeah, but who brought McGovern to the club? Who brought Jack Martin to the club?
Do you know the story there, Joe? Like when McGovern was brought, they were asked to get midfielder, and they missed out on everybody. And then they went out and got McGovern because they were asked to get a big name into the club. That's what happened there. And when Silvani said to him, I don't want Eddie Betts at the club because he's no good for it, they went over his head, right? So this isn't Silvani's fault. These are the power above Silvani that are now pulling the strings.
This is why Silvani and then CEO Kane Little came to butt heads because Little was interfering in Silvani's area of expertise, and he did not like it, and he did not approve of anyone, whether he's the CEO and technically has the right to override him. He felt like he wasn't being trusted to manage the list management of the team. So
100%. Kane Little, like 2 years before that, he was the membership guy at bloody Richmond. And all of a sudden he's making decisions for Carlton.
Yeah. He also brought in, if you remember, Rocco,
rid of Silvani, what happens? They get rid of Kane Little. So they were absolutely wrong in that decision in the first place.
Yeah.
Like it's definitely
he also
right.
brought over that. He also brought over that player that went to the Gold Coast eventually, the ex-Richmond player, Brandon Ellis. He also brought him in. And again, Silvani didn't want that. Silvani didn't want Eddie Betts back at the club because the whole Eddie Betts scenario was purely to appease the Carlton faithful that they were bringing back the favourite son that they wrongfully dismissed and sent over to Adelaide. Well, it was all too late, but Silvani knew that was just going to be a waste of time, and in the end, it was.
Yeah, well, I think they've all got a part to play. To be honest,
it's the
it's interesting.
Yeah, listen. One thing I think Silvani gets a bad rap for is when players that are recruited, especially draftees, don't work out. At the end of the day, he is recruiting the raw. He is recruiting the raw. Hang on, he's recruiting the raw product. Okay, 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds. And it's how we develop those players at the club that is either going to bring out the best in them or not. And quite often he gets the bad rap for a draftee that hasn't worked out, and yet they go to other clubs and we see what happens. All of a sudden they blossom.
Answer this, Brownie. Why don't our younger players develop the way they do at other clubs? Have you noticed, like Dow? Yeah. What's happened to O'Brien all of a sudden?
He didn't even play today. He didn't even play today, O'Brien.
So,
in either AFL or VFL.
Don't develop properly. They do not develop properly the way they do at other clubs.
I think our junior program has got real flaws in it, to be honest with you. I just don't think that we're actually out there doing the foot slog and looking around at what kids could potentially become reasonable recruits for the club. I think they sit back and they wait for these bloody end of year where they've got all the kids coming through their program and everything like that, and they're just hoping that one will fall into their lap. I just don't think they do their homework on them enough, to be honest.
Who is our development coach? Is it Luke Power? Is he in charge of player development?
I can't answer that. I'm sorry.
I I think you'll find it is. I think you'll find players.
Isn't Luke Power? Isn't he the reserves coach? Is he the?
Nah. You guys keep talking. I'll see. I'll see if I can see it on the website.
One of the things
this has been the case for years.
One of the things that was interesting, Rock and Vince, was that I actually had a tour through the place some time ago, and I was shocked to see the amount of people that this organisation actually employs. And I mean, they have assistants to assistants coaches. They have media people that obviously they probably watch this podcast and report back or whatever. They probably do it with you too, Rock, with the jumper punch. But clearly some of it's not getting back to who it's got to get back to. But realistically, with the amount of support and the mechanism around the coaching staff and possibly even the administrative staff, we should be at the top of our game, but we're not. We are just terrible. We're at the state-of-the-art facility, and we're not playing to the standard which is required by this organisation.
We don't put the right people in the right. We don't put the right people in the right spots. I don't care what anyone says.
No, exactly.
We are a reactive club. We just react to everything,
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give you another example, and you mentioned him before, like Cruiser.
Yep.
I used to like Cruiser, but he never coached in his life. He just finished yesterday, and then the next day they make him ruck coach.
Yep.
Now I'm not saying he's not going to be a good ruck coach, but bloody hell, man! I don't understand why wouldn't we go through the proper process and get ourselves a proper ruck coach? It's just those little things they do that just it blows my mind, man. Why would they put him as a ruck coach? He's never coached in his life.
I have an
apprenticeship first.
I have a question. In and around all of our coaching staff, to be honest with you. I'll leave Vossi out of this for a moment because he's the head coach. But you've got Hamill as your back coach. Well, hang on.
Yep.
Hamill was predominantly a forward, not a back coach.
I don't get it.
You've got Hansen that's come over from the West, and I don't even know what his call to fame was, to be honest with you, because I don't think
centre-half forward.
Yeah, well, he may have been a centre-half forward, but as I've said on numerous occasions, good players don't necessarily make good coaches, or vice versa, or good leaders. So, and who's in the midfield?
Tim Clark.
Tim Clark. I don't even know who he is.
Geelong, I think.
Is that?
Well, did he play for Geelong or?
Is that Clark's son, the one that came to Carlton? David Clark.
Think so.
Really?
I'm not sure about that. No, I'm not sure about that, Joe. I think that might have been a different Clark, actually. He played for Carlton back in the early 2000s, David Clark's son. Trying to think of his first name now. But anyway, I think he wore number 9 at the time. But anyway, I think Tim Clark's different.
Haven't they all got to – they should all be asked questions of all these coaches because none of it's working properly. The former
Interestingly enough, when I went through, I actually saw a bloke sitting at his desk watching some footage of the Footscray, and I think it was the side. It might have been Sydney, or I'm not sure. Anyway, they were playing, and we were playing them the week after, which was obviously last week. And I said to this young bloke, I said, what are you doing? I said, I'm just marking down the rotations that they have and when they're actually going to make the move or who goes to what spot when the ball goes to here. I said to him, aren't these blokes capable of thinking for themselves? Don't they know how to man up? Don't they know how to bloody well be in a contest? And he just sort of looked at me as much as to say, who are you? I said, okay, all right, I'll just keep walking. Because realistically, it didn't help him.
By the way, the Tim Clark that we've got as a coach is actually about 41 years of age. And he actually played for Hawthorn and has coached at Richmond, Carlton and Gold Coast and then back to Carlton. After having coached at Carlton as a midfield assistant coach between 2016 and 2018. So he was under under Brendan Bolton back in those years. Then he went to the Gold Coast Suns under Stuart Dew, and now he's back as of October 2021. So what's that? Just over 18 months ago, he returned to Carlton to take up a midfield assistant coaching position again under Michael Voss. So, no, he's got nothing to do with the original David Clark that played for Geelong and also played for Carlton.
Well, I said last week, guys, that if we're going to stick with Vossi as the coach, which obviously he's still got a year and a half of his contract to go, then I would be surrounding himself with people that actually know what they're doing.
Vince, you are wrong.
What?
David Clark's son, Tim, played Australian football, and daughter Georgina competed at the Olympics.
So he is David Clark's son, is he?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I'll stand corrected then. It didn't say anything. Well, I was sorry.
No,
I was looking at Wikipedia, and I didn't see anything there about David Clark, so I apologise.
I typed it into Google.
Well, tell me another thing about whatever these coaches are. I don't care who they are. I don't care if it's Jesus Christ himself come there, right? I don't care. My thing is this, right? How many of them, right, have won anything?
Well, I was going to say this about the players, Rocco. How many players, even on our list, have ever been anywhere and had success? Anywhere.
So there's been
even the recruits that we've gotten, McGovern, Martin, Chera, all of these, Zach Williams. I mean, the most would be Zach Williams having played a grand final in 2019 in a losing team, GWS. He's about the only one that's seen grand final day. Now, and he's always injured. So where is the experience at grand final level? Other clubs like Brisbane, who have been rebuilding beautifully compared to us, if you look at where Brisbane Lions were 6-7 years ago compared to us, we were almost the same. And yet they've overtaken us. They've been playing finals for 4 or 5 years. And they look like being in a really strong position come into this year. But they've recruited Hodge to transform the culture, among that playing group. We've got nobody like that here.
Well, look at our coaches. You look at all our apart from Voss, all right?
Yeah.
And he's the head. So let's forget about him. But you look at everyone else there. Cruiser, Clark, Hansen. How many, what have they won, these people? I reckon I've won more stuff than them. I've won about 9 indoor cricket grand finals, right? They've won nothing. And they're there leading our, I don't understand. I just don't understand. There's people like Lepage and all these assistant coaches out there, which we should be targeting. And Luke Hodge, I know he's a commentator now, but we should be getting these players there, ones
Jordan Lewis.
Successful. But how do you know we haven't targeted them and they've said, I don't want to come?
Well, then that's the problem then, Joe. So we've targeted and they don't want to come. Then there's a problem there. What is that problem? Let's stop going around the merry-go-round here and let's get to the root of this problem. Why aren't we getting the players we really want, right? Why are we just getting these players at the last minute and paying them big money to come over? Why aren't we getting the right coaches? Why don't they want to come? Why didn't those senior coaches want to come to our club? We're going to get to the root of this problem, sorry, people. You say, maybe we have targeted and then they want to come. Well, so do you.
I can tell you that that is a fact. That is a fact, in fact, that we have targeted some of these people and they have refused us. They have refused us. They don't like the club. They don't respect the club and they don't have any respect for the culture at the club. And one of the main reasons for that is at board level, okay? Because everything stems down from that. And you can criticise Bruce Matheson all you like. That man is responsible for between $3.5 and $4 million every year into the coffers of the Carlton Football Club. And whether you like him or don't like him or approve of his timing or not, the fact is he is sick and tired of donating this sort of revenue stream to the club and seeing nothing come of it and seeing the same mistakes and same patterns every couple of years, sacking coaches. And that's why he said what he said.
Isn't his son on the board?
Or his nephew is on the board. His nephew.
Well, I don't disagree with what you're saying, Vince, but he then should be calling for a board spill.
That's what they're saying. Put up or shut up. But I
he
reckon
didn't.
there's a half a chance that might happen, Joe.
Well, it should, because it's just a boys' club. You watch.
It is a boys' club.
Who's
But
the
it's
girl
not
that's
even
second in
about a
charge?
board spill. Like, I hope everyone doesn't get us wrong and we're saying, oh, we just want a board spill and that. What
No.
I'm saying is, whatever
But it
the
stems from
problem
there.
is, we need to fix it. We need to fix this problem. And whoever, someone needs to stand up and fix these problems and have a look at the root of this problem. Because you can't have this great club be where we are after 20 years and we have not improved one iota in 20 years. And we keep putting in that dollar in that roundabout, in that merry-go-round, and we keep doing the same thing. We keep going around. We're going to swap a coach, and then we're going to do the same problem, and we're going to raise a little bit, and then we're going to sack another coach. Mate, this goes deep. This goes deep, and it's time we all stand up as supporters and everyone, and we stand up and we say, this is enough, man. We need to find the root of the problem here, mate. Yeah. There's my rant. I used it up already.
If it was as easy as spilling the board, we'd do it. Anyway, let's move on.
Joe.
Hey, here's tomorrow's headlines. Guess who's put that up?
Carlton fans relieved to know they won't need to wait until the final round to fall out of the 8. Well,
that would have been
from the front bar.
That would have been from the front bar. Yeah.
All right. So let's move on to the votes.
Okay.
And Rocco, if you want, I'll get you to do yours as the guest. But Peter, go.
Yeah, I had Sam Doherty in his first. Had got the 3 votes for the game. I thought his game all day was solid. He actually provided some sort of hope, particularly more so coming off half back than what Sard and these other guys, McGovern and all those other guys did. And I thought he was solid all week. Although, as I said before in the cast, I think we'll probably lose him for 3 weeks because I reckon he's done a hammy, which is pretty sad because he's the only one that really shows any leadership, particularly in that situation. 2 votes I gave to Charlie Curnow. He was quiet early in the game, and then he worked his way into the game, and I thought he did provide a target, although some of the goals that he did get, I know he only kicked the 3, but one of them I could honestly say was probably a bit dodgy. I've seen worse in the actual free kick that was given in front of goal. I don't know whether the umpire felt sorry for him or not, but anyway, I gave 2 to Charlie. He also provided some sort of target coming up the ground a little bit as well. And then the 1 vote I gave was to Young, and I just thought that some of his intercept marks, although he is found out on occasions with some of the I believe that they get confused back there, and I just don't think there is enough leadership to be able to direct traffic, and they find themselves getting caught out of position. So I gave Lewis 1 in my vote.
Fair enough. Nice. Big Vincenz.
Well, I'll try and keep it short and sweet. I gave my 3 votes to Adam Chera. I thought he was the only midfielder that we had that looked accomplished and won his own ball. And I think he ended up with something in the mid-30s in terms of possessions, 33 in fact. Also laid 6 tackles, and I thought he was our best midfielder on the ground. I thought he could hold his head up high at the end of the game. Charlie Curnow, I gave 2 votes to. He just continued to present. He was the only forward I had any confidence in that had a chance to win the ball and to take marks and kick goals. He kept trying his guts out for the entire game, I thought. So I gave him my 2 votes. He got 3 goals, 2 from 14 kicks and 7 marks. And I gave my 1 vote to Sam Doherty. Again, 34 possessions, including 25 kicks, a good proportion of kicks to hand passes. Was very reliable throughout the day, and I thought they were the 3 best players on the ground.
Okay. I gave 3 votes to Charlie Curnow because I thought he was our only forward option and presented all day, even though some of his work needed to be a bit better, but still. I thought Lewis Young played quite well. I think he saved a lot of our – I think if he wasn't playing, we would have lost by a lot more. I thought he kept there pretty quiet and took some good marks. Probably one of his better games, but again, as Peter says, I think he needs to grow a set and start bossing people around or doing more of a leadership role. And I gave one vote to Chera, who I think is the only player who has improved from last year.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't think any other player has improved.
Can I just ask a question? Hang on, before we get Rocco's votes, can I just ask a question? I'm interested to see that you put Lewis Young in the votes, both of you. Who was his opponent for the day?
It was interesting. I think they were switching. I think there was.
Mason Cox was definitely one of them.
My check, and I thought,
and
Cox. Thought Cox, and then they put Cameron back there.
Well, I'm just not sure that Lewis Young actually beat those guys. I think on a lot of occasions he was outmarked and out contested. But anyway, he was okay, but I just don't know. I know Wiedering played on them too, but and McGovern. But anyway, I just thought all of the defenders got out positioned and outmarked and out contested for most of the game. But anyway,
terrible from there. I'm telling you.
What did you think, Rocco?
Rocco, who was your votes?
It's hard to say, but I really haven't looked into it. But I would, Doc looked like he was getting a lot of the ball. Chera looked like he was getting a lot of the ball, so I'd probably give him a couple. And Curnow did the best he could out there.
Yeah.
He did the best. If the ball just keeps getting delivered, there was a couple of times I noticed he would do a lead and they would just avoid him, and they would kick it long, So sometimes they're trying to do the right thing. They're just not looking for him, And like what Brownie said before, they're just not spreading. They're not opening up that forward line. And if you notice Collingwood, they kept running out into space. There was that space if you look, I was really watching the Collingwood forward line, there was a lot of times that their other forwards would just do these dummy leads. They would open up the ground.
Up the ground, yes.
Would run out into just a nice, easy mark, We just don't do that. We don't seem to work for each other, So, so they probably my 3 votes. It was very hard to give votes because really, it was really a poor performance. There was maybe a glimpse here and there, but it was just a poor performance all around.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, I've just received a message from Chris Beach, and I know Peter doesn't know him, but Rocco and Vince know Chris, and you both know.
G'day, Beachy. Good to see you, mate.
You both know how quiet and sensible Chris is.
Yes.
Well, I'm going to read his message.
Okay.
F Collingwood, F the AFL, F Darcy Moore, F Mason Cox, F Brody Myercheck, F Taylor Adams, F Jack Ginnivan, F Jamie Elliott, and F most of the Collingwood fans. I'm done with them. I'm 100% done with them. Beachy.
Yeah, I think he's lost it. Beachy's lost it. Everyone's lost it.
I think he's having a bit of a meltdown there. By the way, just before we continue on, can I just also give a shout out to another guy who came up and said hello to me today at the game, John Holden. What a fantastic Carlton supporter he is.
A good man.
And also a big birthday wish to Lana Owens, who I believe had her birthday 21. This weekend, and would have been hoping for a Carlton victory today. But anyway, Lana, don't worry, we'll keep fighting on. Hope you enjoyed your birthday.
Say hi to Justin.
Hang on, Justin Bieber.
No, he came up to me and he actually bought me a beer. So I actually come out a winner today. I got a beer from Justin. So you can't go wrong there. So thanks, mate. You're a dual champ.
Can I just take 2 seconds? I'd like to give a big shout out to Tanya, because she's doing a wonderful job of keeping Vince recovering well. And a big shout out to Tanya.
All right. Okay, you guys.
The boss of it. Well, I've got no one to give a shout out to because no one loves me. Anyway,
your brother does.
Yeah, my twin brother. Here's the leaderboard. We've got Charlie Curnow.
Right.
In front. Adam Chera. We've got Doherty. Akers, Cripps, Newman, Young, Hewitt, and Pittenay. And now, you know what it's time for, don't you?
Beautiful kick from Brown. That's a magnificent kick. Look at that. He was inside the centre square when he kicked that for a goal.
Yes,
I remembered this week.
Just quickly, my brownie points go this week to Ed Curnow. We've all been very critical of Ed in the last few weeks, and we suggested that maybe he should be dropped. However, I will give credit where credit's due. In the first quarter and a half today, I thought young Nick Dacos did a number on him, but then Ed fought back and he kept his body on him all contests, particularly more so in the third quarter and halfway through the last quarter. And I think in the end, Ed started to get a few possessions himself. And one of the things that Nick Dacos didn't do, and this is for any other side out there that might be interested, Nick's defensive work isn't all that flash, guys. So if you were in a situation where you were worried about what damage he's going to do to you, just make sure that you've got a player that can run with him all day and then niggle him and take him out of the bloody contest, because what happens is that he will run off you and go and try and get to the next contest. He will get found out badly as the year progresses. So
we tried.
Okay.
You know, when we talk about Curnow, it's nothing against him. It's just that, and he tries his heart out. I wish some of the other players tried as hard as Curnow did. He just tries his heart out, you know. But it's just sometimes I think it's the wrong decision to put him in. But you're right. He did a decent job on he did what he had to do. Yeah,
that's a fair call, Brownie. But I've got to say, it was in that post halftime period where I think they to some extent put the cue in the rack a little bit. And I don't think they worked quite as hard in the second half as they did in the first. And you know, I have no doubt that if they were in a situation where, for example, if that was the last game of the year and they had to win by 10 goals, they could have easily put us away by 10 goals the way they played that first half.
Yeah,
I hear what you're saying, Vince, but I based it purely and simply on the fact that he took the dangerous player of Collingwood out of the contest and at least gave whoever else was around him an opportunity, whereas Dacos wasn't as prominent.
Fair enough.
No,
well, I thought that the best player on the ground by a mile was Darcy Moore, and we made him look like an absolute superstar.
Absolutely.
We
11
just kept kicking it on top of his head, and sometimes I reckon our forwards would have been justified in just giving a mouthful to the players up the ground that were kicking it to him.
You know, enough, any side that plays Collingwood from now on in, what they should do is actually have a defensive forward and put him on Darcy Moore. Because let me tell you, if you were to play a defensive forward on him and just run with him and just take him out of the contest, he wouldn't have the relevance that he did today. We weren't. We didn't wake up to that. We weren't quick enough for that.
Yeah,
I'll give you that. And another thing about Darcy Moore, right? When they made him captain, right? Did anyone think that was a good idea? I didn't.
No. He's been a sensational captain.
A couple of years ago, they wanted to get rid of him. Remember?
Yeah, exactly.
He was hopeless. He was playing in the forward line. They didn't know what to do with him. All of a sudden, they make this decision. It's almost like, I'm not saying, do not compare him to Sticks Kernahan, but I'm almost saying like it's that move where you get someone that you didn't expect to be a good captain, and he's been absolutely fantastic. He's been fantastic.
And you know what, Rocco? I'll tell you one thing. I'm going to make a suggestion. I'll stick my neck out, and you can tell me I'm an idiot if you want.
You're an idiot.
I reckon that we ought to do something similar, because Cripps is just not playing with any sense of leadership at all. And if I was in charge, I'd be doing a Robert Walls, just like he did in appointing Stephen Kernahan at age 23. And I would be saying to Charlie Curnow, do you think that you're up to captaining this side? Because if you are, I'd like to put you in charge of it.
But they're not going to do it mid-season.
No, I'm not saying mid-season. I'm saying next year onwards. I reckon I reckon that might be the making of Charlie Curnow in a similar way to what the Collingwood hierarchy have decided with Darcy Moore, and it's been the making of Darcy Moore to give him that responsibility.
Can I just make one comment there just quickly, guys? I know we're pressed for time, but can we just make one comment? I'm pretty mindful of the fact that, there are people who probably want to get to bed and I'm rattling on here like an idiot. But
no, not with the numbers, Brownie. I just want to say thanks for everyone. There's been almost 80 people watching. So, no, they're loving hearing you.
One of the things that makes Darcy Moore's job very, very easy on that ground is the fact that Pendlebury is still there as the prodigal son.
My word.
Now, even if Pendles doesn't say very much on the day of the game, at least you know that he can still direct traffic and still be a part of what's going on. So that's making Moore's job really easy.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, before we gave the top 3 players on the ground, I thought I'd be an idiot, and I'm going to give you the worst 3 players for the Carlton Football Club. Having 3 votes and clearly worst on the ground was McGovern. He had a total of 8 possessions, 6 kicks, 2 handballs, no intercepts, and 5 turnovers. Absolutely stunning performance from the back line. Did absolutely bugger all when he got moved up forward. So that was a great thing. 2 votes I gave to Jacob Wiedering. He had no clue. I don't even think he knew where he was half the time. I saw him one time. He was clear, and he just looked around, and he got caught. Another one, a total of 6 disposals. The ball was down there more than that. 2 turnovers. And lucky number 1 was Blake Acres, right? Playing on the wing. His whole job is to get the ball inside 50. How many times do you think he got the ball inside the 50 today?
0.
So 3 votes, McGovern, clearly the worst on the ground, deserves a banana of the week or a pumpkin of the week. He should have. 2 votes to Jacob Wiedering and 1 vote to Blake Acres. Vince, what are you doing?
Tanya bought him a cup of tea.
Sorry about that, boys. I just had a mini earthquake here. Sorry.
Okay, let's go to the tipping leaderboard. Brownie, you've moved out in front. You were the only one that tipped Collingwood.
No,
it's
wrong.
Peter Brown out 6.
Wrong. You've got it all wrong, Joe.
No,
he tipped Carlton. It was you and me that tipped Collingwood. You've stuffed
did we? Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry.
You got it all wrong. It should be you on 6, Brownie on 5, and me on 5.
Correct.
Okay, sorry, I wrote it down wrong. Okay, my apologies. I'll
get it right, Joe. Anyway, we'll sack you.
I will. I'm being managed next week. Being managed. I'll have to fix that one up. Oh my God. Okay, let's move on to next week's game.
Yep,
I'll be there.
You're going to be there, Rocco?
What a dumbass! I'm actually going to the Sydney Cricket Ground next week.
Are you flying up, Rock, or driving?
We're going to fly up on Friday, me and my son. So I thought I'll bring my son down for a little bit of a mini trip, and we'll go and see this.
Fantastic.
Good father and son.
Make sure you make a weekend of it apart from just football, because otherwise you might be coming back feeling quite miserable about having done the trip. But Sydney's a beautiful city. I'm sure you'll have plenty to do up there. Yeah,
it'll be a great father and son bonding.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm telling you, with the losing we've been doing, we've been bonding really a lot lately.
Hey, Rocco, just don't go to those ladyboy bars like you did here in Thailand, okay?
What happens in Sydney stays in Sydney.
Yeah. That's all right.
Especially when you go to King's Cross, right, Rock?
Yeah, King's a bloody Cross.
That's right.
Yeah. All right. So I've put up the game. So I want to get from each of you a tip and some possible omissions. So I'll start with Peter because he's the expert. And I'm going to write these down properly. So, Peter, Carlton or Sydney? And by
Carlton
how much?
15 points.
Blues. And what are your possible changes?
Possible changes, McGovern out. I would say DeConning in. And unfortunately, we'll lose Doherty because of the hamstring. So I would also bring in Dowd, give him a crack, and
would you replace Doherty with another halfback flanker like Chincotta or Cowan?
I would probably Chincotta. I thought I thought he was stiff, to be bloody well admitted, from the side.
One bad game and he's out.
Yeah, well, I mean, clearly they're not looking at what he's doing off the ball rather than what he's doing with the ball. So, and you will recall that a couple of weeks ago I had him in my brownie points. So, and I reckon Sydney's going to have trouble with matching up on the forwards. That's one thing that they do. Interestingly enough, they're going to have to work out the SCG because it's a different ground altogether, and it's a lot deeper in the pockets than the other grounds. And what they're going to have to do is get their forward line set up correctly. Our backs, they may struggle against Heaney and these guys.
Hapley always kills us.
I think, as a result of that, I think they're going to have to tighten up around that. I think we'll match them in the midfield. And I know that the Sydney factor and all of that sort of thing's there, but I still believe that Carlton will win it by 15 points.
Okay. Vince?
Yeah, look, without any confidence at all, I'm tipping Carlton purely as a last chance type of scenario. They're on their last chance with me. If they can't go up to Sydney, Sydney's not been in good form this year. They only barely fell over the line, very, very fortunately, against North Melbourne. And I think if we can't beat them, I know it's on their home deck, but we've traditionally played pretty well over there. If we can't beat them next Friday night, I know it's only a 5-day break for us, but we've got to rise to the occasion. We've got to get a win on the board. We desperately need a win, and if we don't play with some real desperation next Friday night and win the game, well, then you can just about throw everything out for the season and start dropping big names, start bringing in players from the VFL and really shake up this team because, I think it's desperation stakes now. We're now looking at struggling to even make the final 8 as it stands at the moment. I would be also dropping McGovern. I think his performance today was unacceptable. I'd be giving Hollands a rest. Obviously, Doherty sounds like he's going to be out injured, so there's 3 changes. I would also drop Cottrell. I was not happy with his game today. And I tell you what, even Jesse Motlop, I mean, he had a kick for goal today. Did you see that kick for goal?
Yeah.
What was he? Nearly 50 metres out and he tries a banana. I mean, seriously, the kid's got to be taught a lesson and punished for that sort of thing. So I'd be making wholesale changes. I'd be making 5 or 6 changes to that team. And I think you're right, Brownie. I think I'd be bringing in Dow, DeConning, Chincotta, and 1 or 2 others that deserve an opportunity from the VFL. So
how much are we going to win by, Vince?
So Carlton by 8 points. Okay. Last chance.
Rocco, you may as well have a say. What do you think?
Oh, look, I'm a sucker. I think Carlton are going to win every week, So I think they will win this game. It won't mean anything, but we will win this game. As far as changes, I guarantee they will not drop McGovern. That will not happen. I guarantee it. They're weak.
Why does he deserve another go, Rocco? I mean, where's the selection integrity, mate? I mean, what message does it send that you can play a game as poorly as that today and still get a game next week? What message does that send?
No message, but they won't do it, Vince. You know that. What they'll do
bloody disgraceful. It is an absolute disgrace.
They'll drop Holland, and Doherty will be out. They'll drop Holland. They'll drop maybe. Like even Durden deserves to be dropped. He's been pathetic.
Well. Look, at least Durden laid 7 tackles today.
Yeah,
the other
he
forwards
his ankle,
didn't lay more than 1.
Yeah.
Didn't he injure his ankle late in the last quarter? I thought he did. I thought he hobbled off.
Well,
you're right. I think
what they'll do is they'll make some changes. They'll do things like Holland. Maybe like you said, who did you name the redhead there? Cottrell. They'll do some of those changes. They'll bring in, and I wouldn't be surprised if they bring in. Did Martin play today?
No. He pulled out of the reserves at the last minute with soreness.
Martin didn't play. Lockie O'Brien didn't play. David Cunningham didn't play. I think Marchbank might have played.
Yes, he did.
But to
Very
get him
ordinary.
back after 1 week would be very premature, if you ask me. I think he needs another week or two.
Something silly like that. You watch. They will not make any changes. They won't drop Wiedering.
Well, sorry, they need to start showing some balls at the selection table. They have to. They absolutely have to. Otherwise, they're just not serious. They're not serious.
I'm with you, Vince. I think the integrity of the match committee and the selections is under scrutiny now. And I think they've got to make a statement, and they've got to make a good statement to make sure that the supporters have got confidence in what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah. I love that comment from John Holden.
Yeah, Martin broke his thumb on the Xbox.
You're a classic, John.
Was it Port Adelaide or someone who dropped their captain? Who was that?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. It was Jonas. I think they dropped him on form.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, man.
So is Carlton going to drop Wiedering, the vice captain, on form? Because they should.
Yeah, of course they should. And there's nothing.
But they won't.
Hey, Brownie, is there anything wrong with being dropped and going back and playing a few games in the reserves?
Well, I've got to say, without speaking out of turn, and again, this is not something that's not true. We had a team selection at Princes Park one day, and we all knew that Jezza was just a stickler for making sure that we were on time. Well, as it was, we had to be there, 3/4 of an hour before the game, et cetera. And Mike Fitzpatrick got caught up in traffic on Sydney Road and actually got to a team meeting late and was put on the bench.
There you go. And he was
captain at the time.
Mike Fitzpatrick, for crying out loud.
In other words, no one is safe. The rules apply to everybody, whether you're in a position of captaincy or not.
100%. 100%.
It's all about setting standards, Rocco. And I'm sorry, but Michael Voss talks the talk, but he is not walking the walk when it comes to putting things into practice which prove that we are setting standards and adhering to them and making players adhere to them. It's just not happening.
There was a thing here from Greg. He says, who comes in for Wiedering? And that's a good question.
Kemp.
Sam Burden.
Kemp.
Maybe
Sam
Kemp.
didn't play.
Kemp can do a job.
What did Kemp do wrong the other week? He played so well that they even got into some players' votes, and yet then they drop him the next week, and we haven't seen him since.
Team balance.
Please, give me a spell.
Anyway, okay, I'm going to say Carlton are going to win by 30 points. Going to be really super confident. I'll tell you what, I reckon they will drop McGovern. I think they will. I think they'll bring in Kemp. I think they'll drop let's assume that Doherty's injured, and I think they'll drop probably one of Cottrell, Motlop, and who's the other one? Owies.
Owies played well. Owies did all right.
He was the only one who actually led forward a couple of times.
Owies provided at least an option, and he played almost like a short full forward, similar to Lee.
I didn't say he's going to get dropped. I said one of. You don't know.
I don't think Owies.
Actually, in Carlton, they will drop Owies.
That's what I mean.
Oh, please.
Anyway, on that note,
they do that.
Well, on that note, we're going to let Peter go. Peter, thanks very much.
And good on you, Brownie. Thanks, mate.
Hopefully, Pete, next week.
Before you go, just remember that Tuesday we got two very special guests on the jumper punch, and one of them might be on the left-hand bottom side there, and he might be coming on. No, it's no secret. Everyone knows, man. We've got 279 premiership players who are going to go head-to-head, and we're going to try to dissect this whole team.
Hey, Pete.
That'll be absolutely sensational. Love that. I mean, if that will be a must-see jumper punch episode on Tuesday night.
And I've got some special highlights for you, Brownie, so get ready.
I didn't. Pete,
hey, Brownie, we'll turn you into an Italian yet, mate.
I've been called in other that I'm supposed to be an honorary one anyway. So actually, my very first introduction into Italian food was an old pizza out of an old wood fire oven. So I can call myself an honorary Italian.
No, you are. You're an honourable Italian, and we're going to get some food out here, and we're going to have some coffees, and we're going to have a good old time.
Well,
Sorry,
I haven't seen the.
Hey, Rocco,
I haven't
can you announce who
Jesus.
the other 1979 premiership player is?
Yeah, why not?
Why not?
Three-time premiership player and probably one of the best of the Mosquito fleet. Well, that's at least what he tells us. Was Alex Marcoux is coming on the couch also. So
Fantastic.
Marcel.
I haven't seen the clearance form, Pete.
I'll
So we
tell you
haven't
one
cleared
thing,
you from the show yet.
Rocco. With Brownie and Alex Marcoux on the show, it's guaranteed to be fabulous.
it's going to be fabulous. It is too. No, it should be good.
What was he? Is
I know where
Fabulous going
that's
to come
going,
on as
Vince.
well?
We're gonna look. I'm working on Fabulous. She could become a special guest one day down
I
the
believe
track.
she lives in the area still, Rocco.
She
Have
does.
you
She lives
ever
in
spotted
Reservoir.
her in the reservoir area?
She's a Reza girl. Yeah. No, I'll get
There
her.
you go.
I'll get her.
Well,
I'll get her.
All right. Well,
I'm going to get Fabulous, and I'll get Fabulous and Marcoux, and I'll get Johnson and Helen.
oh, Helen D'Amico.
Yeah, we'll get them all.
Yeah, and Bruce Dooler too, I suppose. Bruce Dooler?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No,
That's
I
a
don't
word.
think so.
Anyway, see you later, Peter. Thanks for coming
Good
on.
on you, Brownie.
see you guys.
Brownie.
All the
Yeah.
best, mate.
I haven't signed the clearance form, Rocco, but I'm looking for it on my desk. It's
Don't worry, mate. We signed those form. What was it? The Form 4 forms? What is
Yeah,
it?
Form
That's it.
4.
That's
yeah.
it.
It's all
Hey.
done, mate. The brown paper bag's already been delivered.
Hey, do you know what time it is now?
About 9:45.
No. It's time for the Big Vincenz home and bet of the week. Now, as I try and tell people, Vince tries to calm people down. Bet big, win big. Well, I'm afraid to say, if you bet big last week, our winner paid $1.22.
I can't believe it was that short, Joe. I couldn't believe it. Life
So,
is but a
Rocco,
dream for us Carlton supporters.
We risked $25 to make $5. Can you believe that?
Hey, listen, a short price winner is always better than a long price loser. So just be grateful we got our money back plus a bit more.
Anyway, so this week, okay. Vince.
Yep. We've decided to go to Pinjarra Harness, which is on Monday afternoon. That's tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, 22nd.
Yep. And we've got one in race number 1, the very first race on the program. And I thought I'd choose this one in the trot race for the day. This is a standing start trot race. And we're going to go for number 5, Poseidon. And the reason I've chosen Poseidon is for those of you who remember the famous movie, The Poseidon Adventure, it was all about that ship, the SS Poseidon, that met its destiny with a tidal wave on midnight on New Year's Eve and capsized. And I thought that really described Carlton Football Club at the moment. We're like the SS Poseidon ready to sink. So we're going to go for number 5 in race 1. Poseidon to be driven by champion driver Gary Hall Jr. And look, it's probably going to be either favourite or second favourite. But I think it'll be in the race for a long way. So let's hope we get, maybe $2.50 or something like that for it, Joe.
Do you think?
We're going to put, I think I said to put $20 on it, didn't I?
Yeah, $20.
25, I think.
Well, no,
20 or 25?
20.
$20.
$20.
So there's the bet. So I haven't put that one up yet, but here's our tally. So we started.
So we've got $20 profit. So we're gonna punt our profit. Okay. If we happen to lose, we're back to our starting opening balance. So we started with 40. We're up to 60. So we'll hope that the $20 turns into $100.
And remember, people, bet big, win big.
No,
okay?
Gamble responsibly. Just make
that's for wusses. Vince, when you were at Xavier College, right?
Yes.
And the Jesuits there, did you ever see them bet responsibly? Never.
No, I never saw them bet at all, Joe.
Do you know there was one day when I was doing, in those days it was called VCE, right?
Yes.
And one of the
No,
guys in
your
my,
day it was called HSC. It wasn't even
HSC,
VCE.
sorry, yeah.
Was too.
And
High
I
school
remember
certificate. Yep.
there was a guy in my year, Michael Manley, who went on to become the racing writer for the Geelong Advertiser and then the Herald Sun.
Yeah.
So and his family were very big into horses, and his dad told him at breakfast, there was no mobile phones in those days, about this horse that was going to win at Geelong. So of course we've run down to Kew Junction and taken off our Xavier tie and all that.
Yeah.
And here we are in the queue trying to put a bet on, and who was in front of us but one of the Jesuits. And he's looking at us, What are you boys doing here? And we're like, what are you doing here? But
you wouldn't suggest for a moment that any of the Jesuit priests would be doing something that wouldn't be approved of by their hierarchy, would you?
Oh no, they all did it. It was all approved.
I remember seeing my old parish priest from my primary school days over at the casino one night. I couldn't believe my eyes. Anyway,
see, they're only human.
Betting heavily on the roulette wheel. But anyway,
was he getting any divine intervention?
Well, I don't know, but he's obviously. I think he put out the collection plate 5 times at the following Sunday mass.
Make up for the losses. All right. Well, look, we've nearly come to the end of the show. I just want to remind people about the shows coming up. Monday, you've got the Blue Abroad show on the Blue Abroad channel with Terry, and it's usually got Pommy on it, I think. I watch it later. I don't watch it live because of the timing differences. But it's the Blue Abroad show on the Blue Abroad channel, Monday, 7 p.m. Tuesday, we've got yours truly, Mr. Rocco Stignetti, 7 p.m. with special guests Peter Brown and Alex Marcoux.
Should be fantastic. Fabulous, in fact.
By watching Arsenal get their asses kicked over there in England. Wednesday night, you've got Rocco. I hope Manny's not going to give it to you this week, Rocco.
He will indeed.
Manny's weak. I have no fear of Manny. They can win the grand final and I'll still make him look like a fool.
So Wednesday at 7 p.m, you've got Forever Rivals with Rocco and the guys from Essendon, Richmond and Collingwood, followed by Legends of the Jumper Punch at 8 p.m. And Rocco, can you please tell us who you are interviewing this week?
Tell us you were there. You're the trooper who keeps coming along even while just 2 minutes after your operation. Who was it?
Well, we had Adrian Gallagher, who prefers to call himself Gallagher. Last week,
does he?
We've got Peter McConville, triple premiership player for Carlton, as our interview of the week this week on the Jumper Punch channel on Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. Absolutely sensational guy. And my word, what a talented player he was. He could play back. He could play forward. He kicked lots and lots of goals when he played at full forward. Took some high-flying speckies in a similar vein to like Trevor Barker at St Kilda. That's the sort of high flyer he was. And has got a magnificent highlights reel. So if you get a chance on Wednesday night, watch it live at 8 o'clock. Otherwise, at any other time after that on YouTube, of course, on the Jumper Punch channel. The interview with Peter McConville as our Jumper Punch legend for the week.
Good Bendigo boy.
You come up a treat. The highlights, I'm telling you. Only us old people remember, but I'm telling you, that bloke, I wish we had Peter McConville right now.
He was
mate.
a great player.
I know.
He was a great player.
Fantastic player.
And the last show I need to mention is Blue Sunday, which is on every Sunday, 8 p.m, featuring yours truly and Vince Loccisano. And
isn't that on right now?
It is, but don't forget next Sunday.
Yes, next Sunday.
Now, before you go.
28th of May, the 28th of May at 8 o'clock. And, of course, that'll be after the Sydney game on the Friday night. So we'll have had a good 2 days and almost 3 days to digest that game.
To mull it over.
By the time we go to air. But, I'll be coming back from Mildura, Joe. I'm actually up there for a function where I'm hosting a big fundraiser for a big Italian family who have a big business up there. And Ange and Kuda are their guests of the night, so I'll be interviewing them. And I might see if I can get a little bit of footage from the night to put on the show next week. But Ange and Kuda, as well as Tony Lewis, who does the Jerry Lewis impressions, and Jack Gatto, who does the Elvis Presley impersonations. And he's a fantastic Elvis Presley singer. So, yeah, it should be a great night. And I'll be travelling back on Sunday afternoon and hopefully don't have any hitches because I'll be back in time to join you on Blue Sunday next Sunday night at 8 o'clock.
I thought you were going to say Jack Gatto does a Mick Gatto impersonation. So I was just getting
I'll tell you what, he just might.
Any relation?
Before we go,
yes.
I just want to thank all the viewers tonight.
Yes,
right?
My word.
First of all, let me say that I kind of just came on before the show just to say hi, and then you kind of like conned me into coming on, but I enjoyed it tonight.
You demanded to be on the show.
No, I didn't. You said we need some ratings. Can you come on? So I came on.
I did.
No, but what I want to say is tonight was huge. We had like around the 80 people watching, which is huge. So we want to thank everyone. I hope you've been enjoying it, because I'm telling you, with Brownie and these two guys on here, this show has been a revolution to the footy world, I'm telling you. And even with the other shows on the other channel that were running at the same time, we held our own quite remarkably. I was pretty impressed. So thanks everyone for joining, man.
Thank you. Thanks everyone.
Subscribe, like, do all that, but we appreciate it because you guys watching is the reason we do this, or else it's just three guys talking to each other. So we appreciate all the comments, everything. So thanks, guys.
And can I just say before we go, Vince has told me that I must do this. If anyone wants to travel to Thailand, don't forget I run a tour company here. I'll put it up next week. I'll get a slide. www.rw4utours.com. We have some standard tours, and I'm also more than happy to design a tour that fits your needs. I'm in the process of doing one at the moment for a friend of mine out of Hong Kong, 12 people, 7 days in Phuket and 7 days in Koh Samui. So, yeah, if you're interested in anything about Thailand, even if you're thinking of moving here or just coming over, more than happy to give you some help. So on that note,
we show a bit of your tours.
Yeah, you're doing the jumper punch.
So I hope everyone enjoys that. And so trust me, you know how much I love Thailand.
I know.
Right? I love it that much that I took one of them home with me, right? So that's how much I love it. And trust me, if you're going to do it, right, this is the bloke you go and see. Trust me, because the tours they bring you and the little spots they bring you, you'll never see if you went on your own. So definitely check out Retired Working for You
tours.
RW4U.
That's
tours. Yeah.
Tours.
So, guys, on that note, it's been really good talking to you guys. Vince, I'm going to nickname you the Phoenix because you've risen from the ashes, mate. A couple of weeks ago, you were lying in hospital in a lot of pain, weren't you? Be honest.
Yeah, it was a very, very big operation, but I'm hopefully past the worst of it and recovering all the time.
You're a star, man. You're a star.
And, I mean, you've helped Rocco 2 days after getting out of hospital with the interviews that all our viewers love. So, you deserve a big kudos.
It's my pleasure. It's a wonderful family here, the Jumper Punch family, and we're all part of it. We're all privileged to be part of it, and Rocco is the one who allows that to happen. And always happy to help him out and do what I can to help the Jumper Punch boys along. And also a big shout out to Paolo and to Marcello, who are overseas at the moment in England. the Sebastiani cousins, who are going to be missing for a couple of weeks at least. I think Paul's back in 2 weeks, but Mars won't be back until. I think Mars is not back until August. So
that's right.
We'll see some new faces on the jumper punch between now and the end of the year.
It's going to be fun.
It should be great fun. And with any luck, Rocco might even ask me to come on one night.
You're coming on soon enough.
No way. No way. Anyway, on that note, don't forget the shows that I mentioned this week. So it's a good night from me, Rocco.
It's a good night from Carlton. It's a goodbye from Carlton after tonight's game.
And it's a good night from me and a good night from all of them. Good night, everyone.
So on that note.
1, 2, 3. See you guys.